Hi everyone, how are you? कैसे हैं आप लोग बेटा? I hope everybody is doing really good. Times are tough. Stay focused. Stay focused. It's very important to stay focused here, guys. You know, even when watching a video, you should immediately try and find out what am I going to gain here? Right? So I should also immediately come to the point, right? So I'll do precisely that. मैं आपको बच्चे आज जो हम लोग डिस्कस करने आए हैं, I'm going to give you a snapshot, right? Olympics, बच्चे, it's an important, hot, burning topic here, right? India is fighting for that elusive medal. We have been, man, we have been. मेरे बाल सफेद हो गए, right? हम लोग medals की तलाश करते रहे. Getting that medal, how that is associated, how it came to be associated with national prestige. Hosting an Olympic event, that in itself has become a matter of pride. This attitude was noticeable in, let's say 1970s, 80s, 90s. In Europe and America. But after that, they gradually started becoming smart. Right? They started becoming smart and they realized that, you know what, not many Olympics have actually been profitable. So what the heck? Right? What's the big deal? And then this entire build-up, right? For multiple reasons, it started coming towards Asia in a big way. In a big way. In fact, last Winter Olympics, Seoul, right? Right now we are in Japan, and 2022 Winter Olympics, we will be back in Beijing. So do you see the world dynamics changes, economic relevance of regions change? Again, coming back to the point, I plan to discuss with you the entire genesis of Olympics, how, in what context it came, declined, right? And from where the modern Olympics, that emerges, in what kind of a context, in what kind of a circumstance does it emerge? And how is it associated with those, beautiful, wonderful phenomena that you talk about, such as industrialization? How was it associated with nationalism? Right? I would try and make certain references. केवल बेटा हम लोग कोई यहाँ पे historical lecture करने नहीं बैठे हैं. Right? मैं नहीं कर सकता. वैसे, I cannot do that. But yes, I'll try and give you a story here which will make some sense to you. It will have some sense to you. Okay? आओ चलो कोशिश करते हैं, बात को बढ़ाते हैं. This, of course, I don't need to tell you what it is, right? This is considered to be one of, in fact, probably the most easily recognizable of the brands of the logo. Entire globe, right? The 5 rings of these 5 Olympic rings representing the 5 continents. Right? We will discuss how this entire thing came into picture. Now let's try and understand the historical perspective कि ये कैसे चीजें पनप रही थी. Right? I'll try and maybe talk about it. बैठने में मजा नहीं आ रहा है, खड़े होकर बात करते हैं. So something, try and understand it in this manner, right? I'll show you a couple of maps, तब वापस बात थोड़ा सा और अच्छी आएगी दिमाग में. Yes, this is a very decent map for us, right? This entire yellow shaded or orange shaded region is considered, you can call it as the Greek region. In olden times, there was no Greece as such. Right? These were a set of Greek people living here in this region. It has been called as Hellenic region. Right? In fact, when you study about Gandhara art, then I'm sure you must have encountered this word, Hellenic influence on Gandhara art. Hellenistic influence, right? That's Greek influence. Okay, so moving on. This is your entire Greek region, Aegean Sea and Ionian Sea. Now, in around 800 BCE. In around 800 BCE, this entire region was undergoing a phase which has been called as archaic Greece. And during this time, in this region, there were a set of city-states. Just like we have, those 16 Mahajanpads in our subcontinent, they had these kind of city-states, such as, look at their names, kuch jaane pehchane lagenge dekhna, Athens, Sparta, right, Delphi, and finally Olympia. These were city-states. Olympia was not a city-state. Olympia is basically a temple here, right? So, so what would happen is, these city-states were engaged in wars, conflict, hostility. But they had 4 pan-Hellenic games where they would actually have a truce. They wouldn't fight, right? And they would send athletes to these respective games, which was held one every year. And there were 4 of them, right? The most important one was Olympics. And why would they do it? Right? Why would they do it? Okay. So, the earliest Olympics, right, they have been dated to around 776 BCE. And they continued for quite some time. In fact, when Rome conquered Greece, even then they continued, right? But finally, they ended in somewhere around 400 CE. Okay? And then later they were revived in 1896. Okay, as I was telling you, Olympia was like a sanctuary, or maybe you can consider it as a temple, or maybe a stadium, or a place where athletes would come just during the games. That's all. Not before and after. I'll talk about it maybe. Okay. ये important point है भाई. So why would they come to these places? Why would they, do this? Why would they stop warring? Because according to their mythology, according to their entire, set of legends and their entire pantheon of gods, right? The gods, right, they are to be entertained in this manner. So do you realize sports is actually a very integral part of their religion here? And do you notice now that this is really interesting? Do you notice that they represent their gods? They represent their gods in a very athletic fashion. Their gods are very physically athletic, both male and female. Zeus, Apollo, Aphrodite, Poseidon, right? Even Lord Buddha in Gandhara. You get the point? Interesting. Very interesting. Do you see how sports, I mean, come on, think about it, man. This is how sports can actually influence religion, art. Interesting, very interesting. Moving on. At Olympia, at Olympia, there was this huge, around 11 meter or so high statue of Zeus. You remember I mentioned 4 pan-Hellenic games? So each Hellenic game was dedicated to one god. Olympics was dedicated to the big one. He is considered to be the big boss of them all, right? This is Zeus. और इसका ये जो स्टैचू था बेटे, it was made up of gold and ivory. How interesting, isn't it? How interesting. 11 मीटर का. And it was one of the 7 wonders. It doesn't exist anymore. Interesting. Few pictures for you as well. See, again, look at the way they are focusing on the physical anatomy. This is the Hellenistic influence in Gandhara art. Another interesting, right from the early days. In fact, the earliest event that we are being told, which was organized at Olympics in 776 BCE, was a race, just one event, right? Race, which was around 190 meter long. And it was called as stadia. During the ancient times, the times which we are discussing right now, the winners, they would be given this. What is this? This is something which is very interesting. This is basically kotinos, right? This is basically kotinos. What does that mean? This is basically a Greek word for olive, wreath. This is called as wreath, W-R-E-A-T-H, right? And ये आपको ऐसे पहना देंगे crown की तरह. I'm sure you get the point, right? So very interesting, very interesting. This was locally found near Olympia. They would get this as award, right? And during this time, as I was telling you, there was a Echecheria. Truce. The city-states gave up fighting, warring. You would be pleased to know this. Probably we should be. Yeah, I think we should be. IOC, International Olympic Committee, and United Nations, they are planning something on the same lines. That when these events, Olympics, are going on, then there shouldn't be any warring across the planet. That's the bare minimum maybe we can do. But again, when we, I doubt people will listen to them, but yeah, it will be a good initiative. Definitely it will be a good initiative if they, can make everybody agree to this. कोई भी दिन चुन लो यार, जिस दिन ना लड़ो, सारे दिन अच्छे हैं, वही ओलंपिक हो जाएगा. Interesting. चलिए आगे बढ़ रहे हैं. These are the certain archaeological excavations which underwent here. ये आपको मैंने की कुछ फोटोग्राफ्स हैं जो मुझे अच्छी लगी, मैंने आपके संग शेयर कर लें. Participation mostly limited to males. Females were allowed to participate as owners of horses and chariots. Equestrian events में they were allowed to participate. Equestrian, that was it, right? Now, females weren't allowed. Their participation was not acceptable. In fact, you would be probably pleasantly surprised to know this, that during most of its history, Olympics people competed in nudes. Right? So, interesting. Chaliye, aage dekhna hai bhai. Now the point is that you should try and probably keep it as a a very interesting discussion here. At Tokyo, I was very pleased to know this and read about this, that at Tokyo almost 50% of the athletes that are participating are women. And by the next Olympics, which is going to be in France, this will be exactly 50. That's a very interesting, very wonderful achievement for which IOC deserves. And not only this, they're also correcting all those biases in terms of the various categories. कि भाई चलो पुरुष की there will be 7 categories, but महिलाओं की just 3 categories. So they're overcoming those barriers as well. But again, somewhere the पेट्रियार्की, वो भी हमारे अंदर जो घुसी है ना बेटे, वो निकल नहीं रही है. I'm sure you guys must be aware, you must have read about the entire furor over the Norwegian beach volleyball team when they said that, you know what, we do not want to wear beach bikinis. And, they were fined to something, I believe. Right? So, it's time that we even do away with such stupid rules which do not make any sense to us now. Right? सबको कंफर्टेबल रहने की आजादी है ना, isn't it? Even the youth events began. Youth events began as well. Just probably take a pause and think. There are so many Olympic events which take place. There's Summer Olympics, there's Winter Olympics, there's Paralympics, there's Deaf Olympics, there's Special Olympics. Then there are pan-continental games. Why? What is the objective? The idea is to make more and more people play. Think about it. I'll probably come back to this theme. मुझे एक variable और बात करने दो, then I will come back to this theme. Then maybe it will make some more sense to us. Okay. Yeah, this is one picture which I was waiting for. This is how the place Olympia used to look like back in those days, based on whatever they have recovered, such as this, right? Such as this, just like they have gotten from Harappa, Mohenjo-daro. So they have reconstructed their depictions, and it has turned out to be something like this. It had this amphitheater where the athletes would compete, and other regions where they would stay and practice, etc. And then they would go away, except maybe a couple of caretakers. So the the place was the same. Yes, the city-states, they primarily competed over who is going to organize it. You get the point? Whoever would be able to organize, sponsor it, would be considered as the ilake ka cheetah. For those 4 years, those 4-year period was known as Olympiad. That's how the word Olympics come from. That 4-year period was known as Olympiad. Right? Okay. Some more images for us to maybe just try and feel the place, During wars, whenever there was a major war, for example, the Peloponnesian Wars, right, when Athens and Sparta fought, during that time, the Olympics were to be cancelled. They were to be cancelled. Just like in the modern era, when the world wars will happen, when the Cold War will happen, we will see how the organization of Olympic event itself is jeopardized. In fact, मैं तुम्हें बहुत interesting बात बताऊंगा, तुम्हें लगेगा कि ये क्या हो रहा है अब. We have had examples where Olympics have been cancelled. For example, in the 1916, when World War I was going on, then in 1940 and 44, 2 Olympics were cancelled. This time around, pandemic came in. Olympic was not cancelled, it was postponed. The only Olympic events to be postponed in this manner. And what is interesting here is that the brand name has been kept the same, Tokyo 2020. For merchandising purposes. So now do you see who is running the show? It's no more the kings and armies. It's the one with the deep pockets. And they are ensuring that these events must happen, even if it means jeopardizing lives of efforts of so many of us, maybe. It does make us question. I mean, I'm not asking you for an opinion. Remember, never give your opinion so easily. जब तक आपको खुद अभी उसके बारे में कुछ मालूम नहीं है, तो हम और आप ओपिनियन कैसे पास कर सकते हैं बेटे? हम तो केवल कुछ नई जानकारी को देख के we can weigh and consider it. Right? ओपिनियन बनाने के लिए तो बहुत समय पड़ा है, जल्दबाजी नहीं. ओके, सो आगे देख रहे हैं. So after the Roman conquest, right? Roman conquest के बाद Olympics decline हो गए. One interesting factor which I think I would discuss with you was that Nero, the very infamous Roman, king. I'm sure you must have read this proverb somewhere. As Rome burnt, Nero sang, something on those lines. This bugger, he considered himself to be a very talented singer and musician. So he organized the Olympics of 65. He organized the Olympics of 65. And in that, he introduced these events and won all the medals. In chariot race, his chariot broke down. He still got the first prize because of the assumption that if the chariot hadn't broken, then Nero would have stood fast. तो जो अगर तुम लोगों ने किसी ने वो मूवी देखी है, साचा कोहेन बोरात, what's the movie's name? Dictator, right? Yeah, I kind of remember that scene where this guy is running with a pistol. So something on those lines he organized and won a lot of medals. Once he committed suicide, Nero committed suicide. And once he committed suicide, after that, the Olympics of 65 were declared null and void. They were declared null and void. And these, the names of these people who participated, who won, etc., were kept very meticulously. It was passed from generations to generations in the form of poems. And their names have survived. And some of them are actually quite phenomenal. See, this is the kind of art which comes out of it. The event, the Olympics, it also became a sort of artistic competition, because from across the Hellenic world, and gradually the participation started increasing. People also started coming in from Spain, from Black Sea, all these regions, right? And so a lot of artists would also come in and they would sell their wares. So it became more linked to economy gradually as well, right? See how they are running in nude, the point which I was making. See, they would even wrestle. Now do you see, they have a very interesting category in Olympics, Greco-Roman Wrestling. It's a very old game. It's a very old game. Thankfully, IOC has realized that we should update our repertoire of games. You should play games which are relevant to people today. तभी तो लोग अच्छा करने के लिए, अपने शौक से आगे बढ़ेंगे. You cannot still be making people compete in Greco-Roman wrestling when nobody hardly follows the sport. This is why they are introducing very cool new sports, such as I will show you at the end of the presentation. He was the first guy in 776 who won the race. I wanted to talk about this fellow. I'm sure you guys know about this. This is Michael Phelps, right? The great swimmer from America. He has the world record of 13 individual gold medal, right? And he participated in several Olympics and collected 13 individual gold medals. And by doing so, he broke the record, a more than 2,000-year-old record of Leonidas of Rhodes, who won 12 gold medals in this time period. Interesting, right? So, in around 4th century, around 400 CE, it ended. And then in 19th century, in an absolutely changed context, people started demanding that Olympics should be revived. In those days, Greece was under the rule of Ottoman Turks, right? And from 1821 began the Greek War of Independence. 200 साल हो रहे हैं इसी बार. 200 years to Greek War of Independence. So world history में this is a very interesting topic. You should read it. पढ़िएगा उसे जाके, ठीक है? So the point is, what was I saying? So the thing is that these Ottoman Turks were ruling Greeks. And as the feeling of nationalism started reaching Greece, French Revolution hui thi na? There had been French Revolution, the American Revolution, right? After that, German and Italian unification processes also began. And in 1821, Greece also felt the current of nationalism. And they started demanding revival of their ancient heritage. You see? जैसे हम लोगों ने, when we started fighting against the Britishers, then what did we do? We went back to our religion and started, pulling out cherished ideals to motivate us, both Hindus and Muslims. We did it. It had its pluses and minuses, right? Okay. Modern Olympics, more than 200 participants, more than 200 nations participate, and they are held every 4 years. There is Summer Olympics. So for example, this is 2020 Summer Olympic. So the Winter Olympic will be in 2022 at Beijing, right? And then the Summer Olympic will again be in 2024 at Paris. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So how did it all began? कैसे शुरू हुआ? Revival कैसे आया finally? As I was telling you, that the demand had begun from 1821 itself. But, to put it in a better context, in 1894, right, this fellow, his name is, as you can see, Pierre de Coubertin, a very popular face. This guy, he actually established IOC, International Olympics Committee, and in 1896 he managed to organize the first modern Olympics at Athens, where 14 nations participated, right? And since then this entire thing has more or less continued, right? Let's keep moving. The headquarters was Lausanne, Switzerland. So IOC is the authority responsible for organizing these games, right? So basically what happens is the IOC will have a lot of national Olympic committees, right? And these national Olympic committees are not politically sovereign. Please do not, For example, what I was able to get through this entire discussion was that Hong Kong, for example, it is not a politically sovereign country, yet it has its own NOC and it competes as a separate entity from China. Such other examples also exist, right? So please understand, the NOC thode alag, right? So this is the first games. Right now, I think 207 entities are participating at Tokyo 2020. Cheating began pretty soon. In fact, if you look at this fellow, he, during a marathon, he drove on a car for half the way and claimed victory. His medal was awarded to the second person, the person who came second. And later it was found that he took, performance enhancement drugs. So, ab kisko de? So, bizarre things happened. There weren't much success. Olympic flag, right? That was created in 1913. It represents the 5 continents. Then this motto, Citius, Altis, Fortis, that is faster, higher, stronger. It was introduced in 1924 at the Olympic Games in Paris. It is in language Latin. Now the thing is, the entire Olympic movement has been gaining pace. I was telling you, they are organizing so many events. Right? They're organizing so many events. Youth Olympic Games hote hain alag se. And there also they organize Youth Olympic Summer Games, Youth Olympic Winter Games. Is there any larger goal to this? I will touch upon that. Let me just first, give you a brief idea. Right? Then I will touch upon those aspects as well. चलिए आगे बढ़ रहे हैं. The idea is somewhere inclusivity, right? When there were just Summer Olympics going on, then what about those kids, those young people who want to compete, who are very talented, but they play a sport which is akin to their geography. Just because आप बेटे वहां बर्फ में पैदा हुए, so of course you will be skiing naturally, but skiing has no place. So do you realize you are actually cutting an entire set, climactic set of people away from the games, which is bizarre. So the idea is to make the games more inclusive. Right? Through more participation, make more and more people involved here. And they are trying to educate people through sports. They have certain values in mind. During the Cold War, right? There was large scale boycotts. In 1980, there was Moscow Olympics, right? And, they decided to, the Americans, they decided to boycott it. And in 84, the Los Angeles Olympics, Moscow decided to return the favor. So a lot of countries from the Eastern Bloc did not go. A lot of doping was going on the back channels as well. Soon, WADA will come into the picture. WADA, right? The World Anti-Doping Agency, yeah. Winter Olympics. The first time Winter Olympics took place was in 1924 in France, right? This is Sir Ludwig Guttmann. I would also like to highlight his contribution because he started this entire tradition of, he wanted to help all these soldiers who were surviving, who were still recuperating from, maybe a limb loss or something through the trauma of the Second World War. So what he did was he started, collecting patients from all these hospitals and bring them collectively at one place and started organizing their events. Right? In 1960, Gutman brought 400 athletes to Rome to compete. Rome mein hi us saal, that year, the Summer Olympic was at Rome only. So he brought all those athletes to Rome and organized parallel Olympics. And from there comes the name Paralympics. They are held parallelly at the same place, just a couple of weeks after the Summer Olympics. This is the tradition, right? So for example, abhi Tokyo khatam hoga, Summer Olympics, and after that, after a couple of weeks, we will start seeing the news about the Paralympics. This is a very interesting fellow I would like to talk about in slight detail here. This is Juan Antonio Samaras. He served as the 7th president of IOC. And he was president, do you see, from 1980 to 2001, very testing times. When he came at the helm of the affairs, at that point of time, IOC was absolute shit. They were losing money. Nobody was willing to touch them. Nobody was willing to touch them. Right? मैंने शुरुआत में तुमसे 60, 70, 80 का जो बोला था ना, उसको थोड़ा बैकग्राउंड में रखना भी. I'm correcting myself here. Right? What I'm trying to tell you here is कि, the entire IOC machinery was not working very effectively when this fellow came in. Right? US withdrew from Moscow. 1972, Munich happened. What is Munich? There was a terrorist attack at Munich. Munich was organizing Olympics, Summer Olympics. And there, some Palestine terrorists, they entered the sports village and they shot down several Israeli athletes, and that became a very huge problem, right? And this fellow, in 21 years, he turned IOC into a multi-billion pound organization. It is considered his handiwork, Samaras. This is one reason why I'm talking about him. He was involved in a lot of corruption scandal as well, where even he was directly implicated at times, right? But if you look at it, he is considered also to be the person who turned the tide for IOC somewhere. He's also been accused for commercializing, right? But somewhere he's also given credit for dealing with doping. So a mixed bag of review. This is where I think I should be talking a bit about doping before proceeding ahead and coming to Tokyo, right? So I'll just give you a small digression, you may call it, on doping. So when you start looking at the books, trying to understand what is doping, so we found out that basically East Germany, right? What is East Germany? Germany, after the, when during the Cold War, so East Germany was captured by the Russians, right? The entire story. East Germany, they started, one very important point I think I should make here, the way Coubertin had visualized Olympics. For him, Olympics was not about professional sports. He considered sports, he considered basically that for a fit mind, you need a fit body. So he considered sports to be a part of the curriculum. That's all. He did not want people to go for professional sports. he wanted to keep Olympics stuck to the spirit of amateurism. That only amateurs who pursue these sports as hobby, they will come and assemble. Right? But then gradually what started happening was, with this entire Eastern Bloc countries, they started this state-sponsored, and this is where the things get really fascinating. जानते हो क्या होता है? ओलंपिक में पदक जीतना मतलब समझ लो कि भाई बहुत बड़ी हमने तो we won the entire bloody battle war. Remember, this is the era of Cold War, where it is full-blown propaganda from both sides, and victory at any place, be it space, be it here, be it there, is considered an absolute victory for the way of life, that way of life, capitalist versus communism. So every medal counts, and these East Germany people, and then the entire Eastern Bloc probably in general, and Russia definitely, these guys, they started state-sponsored doping mechanisms, and they would start giving performance enhancement drugs to these young kids, preferably female, because apparently their digestive system can better hold on to the change in hormones. So they would give these young females a lot of testosterone. And they would come and they would absolutely blow all these amateurs from other countries. And then people started saying enough is enough. We cannot compete with these, absolute psychos here. So we got to do something here. We got to do something here. And then things started getting more streamlined now. See, these females, right? They ran away. They escaped later, where they told their stories, and many of them suffered from miscarriages and all kinds of physical havoc which you can imagine. Same thing happened with several cases of men as well. Right? How sad. Nationalism is not all fun and happiness. It's a lot, anything, everything has its several aspects. Or, I'm sure you would agree, we are also seeing the same kind of enthusiasm, which I'm sure you would agree is a lot creation of media. Right? People who do not know ABC of a game, and they would suddenly become so curious, especially, I don't know, I wouldn't say that. This is good. It's good. Any publicity is good publicity. People can get to know this, right? People can get to know this, and I'm sure some of people will start following it, and they will realize that this is where their talent lies, which is very good, which is definitely very good. Yeah. चलिए आगे बढ़ रहे हैं. China started conducting a lot of state-sponsored doping programs, and soon West Germany, because they also needed to prove that, we can also kick ass, and they also started their doping programs. कि हम पीछे कैसे रह सकते हैं? How foolish! But again, hindsight में कहना आसान है. Yeah, so gradually they gave up that entire strategy. कि भाई amateurs को ही allow करेंगे. They said no, professional athletes, right? अभी देखो क्या हो गया, amateurs cannot participate anymore. Okay, चलो, that's maybe a wider discussion. कभी और बात करेंगे कभी. This is basically the first time when a gold medal was taken away in bench. I mean, this was most talked of. This became a serious media frenzy and created a lot of expectation of some action. Ben Johnson in Seoul Olympics 1988, he used this steroid and he was caught, and his gold medal was taken away. And in 1999, International Olympic Committee, they established WADA, dubbed the World Anti-Doping Agency, play true. The head office is in Montreal, Canada. Russia has the record of most competitors caught in doping, more than 200 of their athletes. In fact, you would be surprised to know this. Tell me, maybe tell me in the, in your feedback or something, maybe, did you know about this previously? But Russia is not participating officially. Not as a nation. They have been disqualified from Olympics because they tried to tweak the test results of athletes. And they have been debarred. They can only compete under the name of ROC, I believe. Right? This is Jacques Rogge. This is the 8th president. He was president from 2001 till 13. Why am I talking about him? I'm talking about him because he gave the idea of youth games. He gave the idea of youth games which were implemented, right, from 2010. Summer youth games and then the youth winter games, that ways. Don't worry, you don't need to, you just need to see what they are trying to do here. That's all. This is the current president, Thomas Bach from Germany. This is Rio de Janeiro. 2016 was 31st Olympics. So that means Tokyo is 32nd Olympics. It is the only Olympics in the modern history which is taking place in an odd year. Yes, in an odd year. In the Rio Olympics, these were the new countries which participated. Notice one team. This is very interesting. They participated in Rio de Janeiro as refugee Olympic teams because United Nations realized that refugees, environmental refugees, war-linked refugees, civil war-linked refugees, they are massive. The numbers are increasing, more than 16 million. Higher than many nations. Include them as well. They also deserve the right to see their sports being played there, played at the grandest stage. They also deserve the right to even have the chance to play at those games. This is how you feel a part of a global village, a global humanity, vasudhaiva kutumbaka. अगर मैं बैठ के ओलंपिक्स में देखूं बेसबॉल हो रहा है, रग्बी हो रहा है, हमारे कल्चर का कुछ नहीं है, how will you feel? You will stop watching it. So making it inclusive has various aspects. Cultural, social, definitely economical, right? A lot of focus has started coming on the logos and merchandising because that has come, turned up a real big market here. So logos, merchandising has become really huge. Some of the latest logos, I've just pasted it only for beautification, nothing else, right? Just see how, creative people get, that's all. 2018 Winter Games took place at Seoul and they were 23rd. That means, samajiye, that means the 24th will be in China, Beijing. This is the refugee nation's flag. This is the refugee nation's flag that I was talking about. Now, this is one Olympic document which I managed to find out. And they are referring to core values of Olympism and some of the themes as well. I thought I would just mention them here very briefly, right? They are saying primarily that these core values, they are not only essential for a sports person, they're also essential for us individually, right? What are they? Excellence, doing the best at what, doing the best that you can at what you do. That's excellence. And you can learn that through sports. Wouldn't you agree? Sports is one very interesting way in which kids can be molded, personalities can be built, even young people. Right? Other one, respect. Respect for the other person. That is also a very important value, which I'm sure you can, you would agree, it is one of the core value of Olympism. Friendship. Right? And from there, they have come up with certain educational themes as well. Right? Chaliye. I think I have made most of the points which I intended to. A look at Tokyo. This is the official emblem, right? This is the official emblem. Their official slogan is united by emotion. Don't worry about the written material a lot if you are not able to see it, right? It's mostly for my purpose. If there's a long sentence, then I will definitely try and use a different font. Sorry. This is Mirai Towa, right? This is the mascot for summer games, Mirai Towa, right? And this is Somaiti, mascot for Paralympic games. Yeah. Now, lastly, as promised, I would look at the new games, because you remember I told you that they need to make the games more relatable to the current generations, right? अब अभी भी कहें कि गिल्ली डंडा खेलेंगे तो कैसे काम बनेगा यार? Of course, nobody will turn up, right? So the 2020 games will have new competitions such as 3x3 basketball, freestyle, BMX, Madison's cycling, as well as mixed events. You remember I was talking about gender parity. So they're also going to have a lot of mixed events, male and female, together. Karate, sports, climbing, surfing, skateboarding. They will also enter the picture. See, all these fun sports, even climbing, can you believe it? Indoor climbing. This Madison cycling, no, I think this is some the name I could be messing up, so I will not even fathom a guess. It's probably BMW or not too sure. Sorry. This is 3x3 basketball played at just half the court. See how innovative new things are coming up. The next two Summer Olympics, first at Paris and then at Los Angeles. And the Paris Olympics will also witness, break dance, breaking. It will be called as breaking. It will be, it will be introduced as an event. It will properly see dance battles happening, man. Nice, isn't it? Very nice. Very nice. This is how you evolve. This is how you evolve. Right? IOC has recently also announced that the athletes would be allowed to express themselves during the competition. Right? And previously as well, certain groups, as I was talking about in Munich, right? Certain groups have tried to use this platform because it is a mega event to make political statements. Right? At times the effect has been really, really, interesting. That's all the word I can say. Even, you know, athletes have at times given the finger or done this or that and made all kinds of political statements from the stage, but let's see how it goes. For example, Berlin Games in 1936, Hitler was the first one who introduced all that jazz, you know. He was the first guy who used television for political propaganda. He hired the best of Hollywood to come and shoot his rallies and the Olympics, right? And Nazi propaganda was sold like crazy. In fact, Hitler suggested that all the countries, none of them should be allowed to send Jewish athletes. But when everybody said that, you know what, then you can just play your own games, we are not coming, then he backed off. And he was not willing to allow even the blacks. You know, in the same Olympics, I think one of the biggest slap on racism, casteism, or religious orthodoxy, superiority, one of the greatest slaps, right, that can happen was given by this fellow, Jesse Owens. He, at Berlin in Hitler's presence, won 4 back-to-back gold medals. And Hitler was left, you know, smiling sheepishly. कि लो, तुम तो कहते थे आर्यन बहुत अच्छे होते हैं, ये क्या हुआ? Right? You see how it was all linked. Massive, right? This is the terrible, one of the terrible photos, right? This is the faces of around 15 of the Israeli athletes which were killed by Palestinian terrorists. This is again one of the, you know, this is how humanity, but this is what humanity has come to. What can we say, right? At the 2000, we also have certain good examples. For example, in 2018 Winter Olympics, which happened in South Korea, North Korea and South Korea, they decided that we are going to march together as one. We may not be unified politically, but we can keep those differences aside and just play. A step in right direction, right? India's performance till date, I mean, when I say till date, I am not counting Mirabai Chanu and everyone, right? This is till 2016, 28 medals were there, right? We will add whatever after Tokyo, let's see. And in 2015, the Ministry of Sports, it launched a program known as Target Olympic Podium Scheme TOPS. Right? The idea was to identify potential medal winners and podium finishers to get more medals. Right? Because this will build our prestige. Do you think this is the correct usage of the resource? Or probably that resource was better utilized maybe somewhere else. Again, a thought to ponder, not to give opinion. A thought to ponder, right? That's it, man. That's it. I hope it was worth your time. If not, I am really apologetic. Try and let me know. Try and let me know in any which way we can try and, you know, make this thing more useful for us. Right? God bless you. See you around. Bye.